Today on VNN Mod Reviews, we are going to be taking a look at the Half-Life 2 Episode 2 mod, Uncertainty Principle. Uncertainty Principle is a single-player Half-Life 2 Episode 2 mod that takes place in the Half-Life 2 universe, and you play as an unnamed Resistance member. This mod was created by a guy named Motion, and he is a guy that has created a lot of different maps for Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and is actually an editor for lambdageneration.com. This mod itself is actually very, very good, and even though this is the first full-length mod that this guy has done, I highly recommend it. Now, that does not mean that it's a flawless game. Nothing really is. There is a couple things that kind of make it a little bit more of a muddied experience. The mod opens up with you waking up in a Resistance hideout that the Combine has just stormed, and you're in the middle of the firefight. However, you don't have a gun, and you have to just get out of there. So, you are trying to escape away from this hideout and try and get away from all of the Combine that chase you. After the opening sequence in the Resistance hideout, you actually get a hold of the Jalopy, and to be honest, this is one of the places where the mod shines the brightest. My favorite part of this mod were the two vehicle sections that you had. At the very end of the mod, you had a water hazard type area, and at the beginning, you were driving the Jalopy around in what seemed like a Half-Life style Mario Kart racetrack. I know that seems a bit extreme, but if you play the mod, there are different things going on while you're trying to get away from the Combine that just don't really seem like they would happen naturally, but for the fun of an actual game, it really makes for an awesome experience. Now, this game is 4 chapters and probably spans around 2 to 2.5 hours, depending on how good you are at a Half-Life game, because this is obviously inspired by the works of Valve in terms of any kind of single-player campaign scene within Half-Life. There is a lot of things that very much do remind me of things already seen in the campaigns of Half-Life 2, Episode 1, and Episode 2. That does not mean that it's a bad thing, however. A lot of the things that you see that are inspired by Half-Life 2 actually have some improvements upon. There are things like a physics-based puzzle that isn't seen in Half-Life 2 that would fit very closely in a game like Half-Life 2. On top of that, there are a lot of different set pieces that really show off what the Source engine can do. While talking about the engine, this game is actually made very well in terms of the mapping, where one of the major complaints of people playing Half-Life 2 or any of the episodes nowadays are the frequent loading and long loading time. The loading times are the same because he didn't do anything to the engine, but the maps are very large, and it doesn't seem like it's loading at all as often as it would in Half-Life 2. Of course, that's a trade-off with the very large maps. There are certain points in the game that you would experience frame drops. The chapters are laid out in such a way that they feel like they flow together, although every chapter has a different feeling to it itself. Different lighting conditions, different time of day, different sets of enemies you're going to experience within the different chapters, and every chapter has its own puzzles to solve that feel natural. Only a few times did I feel like I had no idea what I was doing, and only until the very end of the game did I always feel like I knew what I was fighting for. The only major complaint I would have in terms of the level design things themselves is that more frequently than I would like, there are different sections where you kind of have to defend a certain thing. You know how in Left 4 Dead when you're getting close to the end of a campaign and you have to like start an engine or get an elevator or start a radio and you have to go against a horde of zombies? Well, there are a lot of different points in this game where something has to happen that you're waiting for and a ton of enemies are going to rush you. That's fine, but there are actually certain points in this game where that happens multiple times very close together, and that can get a little grating. And that also ties into enemy placement, which this game is kind of weird with how it distributes out the enemies. There will be long sections of absolutely nothing going towards you, and you're just trying to get around the levels by yourself. And then all of a sudden, the game will throw an immense amount of enemies at you at once. The enemy placement also is dictated by where you are in the game. There are whole sections where all you will see is antlions, and there are whole sections where all you will see are zombies. The plot in this game is not that important. It's very loosely there, and there really isn't a whole lot going on in terms of a deep story. The mod itself is a showcase of what this person can do in terms of level design, the overall mood of the game, and theming of the different levels. And what is done with those is done very well. The atmosphere in this game is amazing, and even though there really isn't much of a plot to be able to string it all together, it feels like it flows, and it really feels like an awesome experience. There are still some things, like I said, that kind of bother me, especially when it comes time to have to defend a horde 3 times in a row within a 20-minute period, But other than that, this game is very, very well made. The health kits and ammo are distributed out exactly the way I'd want them to, meaning right when I felt like I needed to get a health kit, I would find one. There wouldn't be an overabundance of them, but there were just the right amount. So since this is the first episode of VNN mod reviews, I don't know how I should do this, but I'm just gonna give it a, you should play it right now. Go play it. Link is down in the description. It's very good. It just came out a couple days ago, and I highly recommend it, especially if you like Half-Life, as this is some of the best level design that I've seen in a long time for a Half-Life style mod. So thank you for watching. As you know, I'm Tyler McVicker. This is Valve News Network. If you want to be able to support me, I am doing a Patreon right now where I have a whole slew of rewards that I've worked very hard to be able to create, and if you feel like wanting to support me, then maybe check that out down in the description below. But thank you for watching. If you have any other mods you want me to review, tell me in the comment section below, and thank you. Have a good day. Adios.